Gentlemen No Class is proud to be a part of the HC Universal Network. Gentlemen No Class is produced, mixed, and edited by M5 Studios.
This podcast contains explicit language and is intended for adult audiences. The views and opinions of Gentlemen No Class are strictly for comedic purposes and should not be taken literally. For instance, like this disclaimer. Now grab yourself a pint and enjoy.
And welcome to another episode of Gentlemen No Class. Let me switch the camera. No? Is it not going to do it for me? Fuck. God damn it. Piece of shit.
Tactic
There we go.
All
right.
Errors.
Okay, I'm going to have to fix that. I'm Rob. You can see that we are without Jake tonight, and this loser over here. Yeah, okay, cool. That's Paul, the guy that just snapped his fingers. I don't know why the switcher's not working. I need to fix this real quick.
I can hear the delay too.
No, you can't, because it was coming from my iPad because I forgot to mute it again. So, on tonight's podcast episode is my cousin Sam. Sam, say hello.
Hello.
Sam is our resident Lord of the Rings expert. Actually, your whole family is kind of the Lord of the Rings expert. That's kind of like what we talk about every time we're together. Whenever there's like some new Lord of the Rings like stuff that's happening, it's always like, hey, what's going on with this? Have you seen this? Have you talked about this?
So your family gets in debates and stuff like that, or what?
Not debates, but yeah, if there's
Or like,
something.
it was, like together commonly you could go. Well, you had that. You know, you could talk about that subject.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
there's something, and I listen and read a lot to other like podcasts and things related to Lord of the Rings. So
okay.
Sometimes hanging out with the family, I'm like, hey, and so I just heard something interesting recently.
Yeah, nice.
And they've even taken like not literal bets or anything, but they're like, oh, Sam's about to say something Lord of the Rings.
Oh, nice. Are you by any chance a Twin Peaks fan?
No.
Damn it, man.
Nobody's a fucking Twin Peaks fan.
Leave me alone. I just had to ask. I want to talk to people about Twin Peaks.
There we go. There we go. Now I got it working. All right.
All right.
We'll do a Twin Peaks episode one of these days. One of these
Don't
days.
worry about it.
You're like, nah.
Nobody's gonna watch that.
Why wouldn't anybody watch it?
I don't know.
All right. So on tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about the Lord of the Rings. Obviously, with the trailer that came out for the new Lord of the Rings episode, The Rings of Power. So I guess, like, where do we start with this, Sam? Like, for most people haven't read the books, right? So I'm assuming that you've read the books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 5 books, right?
Depending on what you're referring
Let's see,
to.
here we
Because,
go.
yeah. So I guess to start out, we have the most important like periods of time in Middle Earth are 3.
Talk into the mic like
right.
that.
Okay. Are
There you
3
go.
ages. There's times before that, but that was mostly due to like occupied by the deities, if you will. Like
Gotcha.
They're referred to as the Valar and the basic like magical beings that are known as Ainur. But when it comes to the first age, that is when the elves are awoken and all the other they start waking up other creatures. Anyway, so that's the first age. There's the second age, and then there's the third age. The first age ends. Well, so referring to the books,
So let's reference like where most people know. So like most people know the events of the third age.
Yeah.
They know because the third age starts at the end of the first War of the Ring, when Sauron gets the ring cut from his hand by Isildur.
Yeah.
Right? So and then it ends with the ring being destroyed by Frodo when he like drop kicks Gollum into the lava at the end of Return of the King.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that's what most people that's all the Lord of the Rings books and the Hobbit book take place in the third age. the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, is solely focused on the Second Age.
The Second Age.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's reference like what happens in the First and Second Age.
So yeah, and that's where like because the First Age is mostly described in the Silmarillion, and that
And what is that?
That's how you pronounce that?
yeah, that's the Silmarillion.
Okay. I just call it some. I just can't. I can't even attempt to do it.
I do too. I
With a
call it
note.
the Similarian.
yeah. Yeah. There you go. Something like that.
Fair enough. So that kind of it basically sets the stage for what's going to happen later on because like the First Age is dominated by the elves. The elves are like the most important beings on the planet. They're sort of like the political
Fucking-
leaders of no,
Yeah.
they're the ones
like
that
princesses or just
Yeah.
like it's like upper like to me it's like high society.
yeah
Or
yeah
just
yeah.
intellectuals and the people that kind of paved the way or leaders of the world and I don't know.
Exactly.
It could be maybe a commentary or something like that JR was maybe I
Yeah.
don't know in his perspective. I don't know, just a thought.
I could get into that a little bit,
But-
but yeah, I'll just like to
Diving off,
probably
sorry.
is a good point just to start before I go any further because there was that episode of South Park that came out recently. If anybody has seen that, where they
Reference it, man. Well, I haven't seen it personally,
Oh,
but
okay.
Either, I don't think so.
well, so there's an episode where they're talking about Tolkien,
Okay.
and that his name is actually Tolkien.
Oh,
Not Token. He's not Token
Nice.
Black. He is Tolkien. And anyway.
Oh, the black kid character on South Park. His name
Yeah.
is Tolkien,
Yeah.
but his name's Token.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it
So
always goes
so
by
the South
token,
Park
yeah.
creators like did a little backtrack, and they're like, no, we're not gonna call him Token Black anymore. We're calling him. He is named after J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh, okay, so his name on the show is actually Tolkien.
Tolkien, yeah,
Oh,
and,
okay.
and what the and so I'm only to what you said, Paul. Like
Mhm.
it's yes, Tolkien, the author, would have been influenced by things going on in his life, and he was well aware of things, and he would be sort of
He was a big Christian too, wasn't
oh
he?
yeah
Him and C.S. Lewis were buddies, weren't
yeah
they?
yeah and so
C.S. Lewis wrote the
Yeah.
Chronicles of Narnia.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so a
I've
lot-
heard of C.S. Lewis. I just didn't know he was. Yeah, from
So,
anyway.
the thing is just there's a lot of things that could be, okay,
There you go.
could be like unintentionally put into his stories because Tolkien made it very clear at the beginning of Lord of the Rings. He has a little like prologue, like beginning note. None of it is meant to be allegory. So all that, like,
okay.
yeah, the elves are kind of like this, imperialistic.
Yeah.
Like they have their there's even when we get into the Second Age, there's even more like imperialism going on. But that's not because he was equating it to the British Empire or to the
Right.
Americans or anything like that.
Yeah.
He was just saying, like,
It's
he's
just
just
yeah.
naturally
From what he
influenced
knows and just exactly from the
Yeah, yeah.
influence from that, from just history
Yeah.
in general, I would
so
assume. Yeah.
so getting back to that, so the Second Age is kind of like the elves are still dominant, but humans are kind of taking a leading role at this point. And
Okay.
and so like the setting of this new show is going to be on the island of Numenor, which is kind of like the origin for like Tolkien created the he tried to apply it to real world mythology, I guess, by saying that Numenor is sort of like Atlantis. It's there are these great like inventors and explorers and everything. All the
Okay.
stories that we have about Atlantis being like this
Folklore,
wonderful
man.
like civilization above anybody else of their time, that would be Numenor. Because elsewhere in Middle Earth, and Middle Earth is where the Third Age mostly takes place, and that's all, where the hobbits live, where Rohan is, where Gondor is. All those people are at this time in the Second Age, they're less developed, we should say. Like I said, there
Gotcha.
are, yeah.
Because I mean, let's give a time span here. So we're talking in the third age takes place. They're not all equal lengths of periods of time either,
No.
right? So the Third Age is 1,500 years. No, it's longer than that.
Yeah, much longer.
It's like 2,500 years.
Maybe
Because Galadriel says in 2,500 years the
Yeah.
ring passed out of thought and sight. So Isildur had the ring for 5 to 10 years before he died and lost it, and that happened at the end of the at the end of at the beginning of the third
Yeah, the
age.
beginning of the third age.
And then the third age ends with Frodo drop kicking Gollum in the lava.
Yeah,
but in the Lord of the Rings movies, like if you've only seen the movies, it seems like that takes place over like the course of like a week or maybe a month. But like
Right.
really, like it takes place over the course of like 2 years, doesn't it?
Well, no, the story of like Frodo traveling, that was about a year. A year and some.
I thought he was spent a year just getting out of the Shire.
Well, yeah. So when he finally gets out of when they leave Rivendell, yeah, that's like a year.
Okay.
But everything because
Damn.
like when Bilbo has his birthday party, there's 11 years between. No, more than that because Bilbo turns 50. Sorry. Bilbo turns 111 when Frodo turns 33.
Yeah, it's 60 years
Yeah.
later,
Yeah,
right?
and then when Frodo turns 50, so now we're talking 50 minus 33. So anyway, like years later is when he finally leaves the Shire.
Yeah.
When he's 50, and it's kind of like a callback because Bilbo was 50 when he went on his journey in the Hobbit. And so
Gotcha.
Frodo kind of just had this feeling. He was like, I really shouldn't leave now. I should wait until the time is right. And so the time was
Yeah.
right when he was 50. But and so the
Fucking 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
God.
movies condense it to like it
Yeah,
happens
yeah.
like the same night. But,
Yeah.
I mean, like in the
But
movie, like because
there-
I watched it again today, like Gandalf travels to Gondor and then to Isengard, and that's a long way to go. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it takes them a month to go almost that far to like in you know what I mean? So like
I wonder if he had a lot of food with him.
wizards don't need food.
Well, yeah,
bro.
well,
Middle Earth fantasy, yeah. You don't need food, yeah. All you need is your bread. What's that bread? That
Lambus
bread.
Lembas.
Lambus bread.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking wrapped in that like banana leaves or some shit or
Malorn.
Oh, excuse me.
But-
Thank you for correcting me.
Oh, there's so much
Yeah.
detail into the world.
Well,
Like, but you're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, like well, my thing is like the age is for them. The what's the average lifespan for a hobbit? It's over was it, they go to like 150? What is it?
Some of them did get to about
Yeah.
150, but
Okay.
that is like a rarity. That's like
Okay,
a
so-
normal human getting up
Yeah,
to
so like
100.
50, so to 50 to them to us would be like maybe like their 30s or something like their 20s maybe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
really.
So that's
Yeah.
why I was saying because like Frodo when he turned 30, like it was such a important moment for him because 33 for hobbits is their coming of age. So it's a little bit older. It's still older than like a 13-year-old,
Sure.
but it's still kind of like so when they're in their 20s, they're
Yeah.
considered kids basically. They're
right.
like they're 20 when they're in their 20s.
That's
they call
fucking
that
weird,
their tweens because
Nice,
it's like
yeah.
they're like this is when you get to act up and just be like a little
Oh, okay,
goofball.
gotcha.
Go fucking
So
nuts.
Yeah.
and I mean, but the lifespans of just people and like men, I guess a regular man has a regular lifespan, but like Aragorn is one of the race of the Duodyne, so has long age. So because he's almost 90
Yeah.
in the Lord of the Rings in the books.
And that's really great tie-in to what's going on in the Second Age because only men from Numenor were granted this long life because
okay.
of their ancestry. Because
So this is going to take place all on a completely separate continent.
yeah,
Okay.
and so these people, these Numenorians, have like this kind of gift that they have a gift of longer life. They're just a little more like they're kind of connected to the elves in a way because that's actually their ancestry. The rulers of Numenor are descended from like a union between man and elf. So like
Okay.
Aragorn and Arwen weren't the first to do that. It only happened rarely before them too. It was only, but that is kind of this like so they have this the leaders of the Numenorians and by default like the followers of the kings of Numenor, they all have this kind of special longevity where
Okay.
they can live a couple hundred years. That was the thing. Like the kings of Numenor could be like 400 years old.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Yep.
I meant to tell you, I forgot. Like 2-3 years ago, I wrote something that really inspired me for the Hobbit. Fucking Azog the Defiler.
Yeah.
I wrote something. I meant to get. I don't know. I was gonna say I was gonna give it to you. Maybe you could put it into the podcast or whatever. But it's like over a minute or so. I don't know.
If you
It's just
didn't
an
bring it
idea.
with you tonight, it's not going nowhere.
Oh man, I'll just put my phone on the speaker. They're good enough.
God damn it! Don't do
No,
that.
though I know. I will though.
I mean, I'll plug it
It's-
in and
don't-
play
yeah.
it if it's really that big of a deal.
No,
Like, we
don't
can
worry
play
about it. But I just thought it was, like I don't know what I was just saying that because it just. I was watching it one time and I was just getting high. I was just fucking like I took some Adderall too, so it was like an 8-hour binge of just writing music, and I just spent 8 hours in my room writing Azog the Defiler. Yeah,
jerking off.
yeah, edging.
Ordering Little Caesars.
Yeah, it was fun. But then those 8 hours went by fucking like it just didn't seem like 8 hours. It seemed like minutes.
Well, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah,
And that's
goddamn
like
right.
that's like 2 of the fucking Hobbit movies. If you were watching like the extended versions,
Yeah, it's so
It's
fucking
not
long,
even, all
man.
3 of 'em.
I know. The first one's like almost 4 hours fucking long. It's
Well,
like
I
3.5
watched.
hours.
I was telling Sam before you got here that I was watching the movies.
Sam.
Sorry. I was watching the movies while I was working, and I watched the Fellowship of the Ring extended edition, and I got
Fucking
halfway
loser.
through
Yeah.
the Two Towers extended edition. That's 6 hours worth of
Yeah.
movies.
Did you know it used
that's-
to be called Twin Towers?
No,
No,
it was never called.
It was
never
never
called.
done it?
No,
No, it was never.
I thought they changed it. Never
No.
mind. Because it came out. Well, it came out after 9/11, and it made a
the
big
book
fucking-
came out way before
Yeah, but
that.
I thought it was actually called
No,
Twin Towers,
no.
but
No.
maybe it was some bullshit because it was just around that time anyway. So
No.
I'm sorry.
It was
I
always
wasted
called the
time.
Two Towers.
Okay. Fuck you.
All right.
That is awesome. The connection there though
Yeah.
when it came out, but yeah, totally
Yeah.
coincidental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're talking about the Second Age. So how long is the Second Age?
I know people who would be able to answer that, but I don't know.
Okay.
It's just thousands of years. We'll just say that.
Okay, so thousands. This is not events
So
that.
average every age is what 2,000.
It
years or
depends.
so?
There-
yeah,
there's-
that's- yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't like I can't.
An
tell you
age
that.
is defined just by
An
I guess
ev-
whatever
by the
whatever's
events.
going
Yeah,
on in
it's-
events.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
However
defined
long
by
they
a
take.
major event. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Suck
like
thy dick,
the
yeah.
the Second Age. The Second Age starts with. Well, I don't know what starts the Second Age.
I'm pretty shit at this, and anybody who might be listening who is like a follower of Lord of the Rings would be like probably like smacking their head against the wall right now because it has to do with the end of the end of the First Age deals with the War of Wrath, I think, or one of the war. I know there's a war of the gods, the Valar,
Yeah.
battling Melkor, who is like the greatest enemy of all,
Right.
and
Let's start.
Yeah,
Let's start there. All right.
yeah.
So like, if we're not gonna jump into the like, we don't need to get directly into the First Age, but I think there's some key points that need to be gone over are things like Sauron, who's the bad guy from the Lord of the Rings series, is not the big bad. Like he's really an underling
yeah,
of
yeah. Good question.
so there like let's go over this whole hierarchy of like who the Maiar are, kind of explaining like because that will explain kind of, if you didn't already know, like how the role of the wizards and what their job was and who they are and how Gandalf is able to die and come back, because he's not. It's kind of a different relationship, right?
Yeah.
In the Tolkien verse or whatever. So, kind of go over the hierarchy of starting with like the gods and what they're called
Okay.
and who they are.
Yeah, and so that's a good point because to man they are like sometimes referred to as gods, but to the elves, because they like lived with them, they didn't think of them as gods. They were like, oh, they're just the higher power.
Okay.
And so those are the Valar. The Valar are what, as we, would be the gods. And then there are a subgroup of them who are sort of their like lieutenants, they're like helpers. Those are the Maiar. And among the Maiar are spirits like Gandalf, Saruman, Sauron, the Balrog. All those are Maiar. And the funny thing about the wizards, they don't actually come into the story until the Third Age. So in this show, the Amazon series, there shouldn't be any wizards.
Really?
Yeah, because they only came in on the Third Age.
Yeah,
Oh,
because they
that's-
were sent to Middle Earth with a mission.
Yeah, to help man.
Where
to
the
help
hell did they come
mankind.
from?
They
Well,
were sent by
from-
the Valar. They were sent by the Valar
Who's
to
the
help man.
Valar?
They're
The
like the gods.
Gods?
Yeah, the god.
Oh,
Dude,
okay.
you have to pay attention. We're not backtracking because you're fucking clicking on
Well,
your pen.
Oh, I'm trying to take notes here.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Fuck you.
All right,
Go on.
Continue, Sam.
And all of these, like, because they can't actually be called gods because there is the one power, which is Eru Iluvatar. But we won't get into that. Well, so that does enter into what's going on in the series potentially. I don't know what the series is going to go for.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
likely.
You know, slightly sidetracked. My thing is, I'm, anticipating. I can't wait to watch it. I'm so used to Peter Jackson's filter of what we know, like how that looks like, right? You understand? All of us do, and it's gonna be like a weird transition, or it is what it is. Because is he involved in any way?
As far as I know, no, not
No.
at all.
Okay, so somebody else. Okay, either way, so it's gonna be a different, perspective, and like however I don't know if they're gonna whatever they're gonna do. That trailer doesn't reveal that much, but I'm just ready for a drastic change. Like I'm so used to the films, and then the shows. Like it should stand on its own either way.
Oh, yeah.
It shouldn't replicate that, but it just being a pretty big fan. Like it's just gonna be kind of a weird.
Yeah, it's gonna
transition.
be totally different, and I think that like that point that I was saying that wizards aren't gonna be there. So one of the most iconic images that we have of both The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is Gandalf. He's been tying all of these movies together. He's one of the few recurring characters. He's not gonna be there. Now, going back to like some of the recurring characters, we will have Galadriel. She's been in all of the movies, or
That's
at least
right.
in the Fellowship and the Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
And she's gonna be in the show.
She will be in this show. This is
Who's
a
playing
shot
her?
of some of the characters from the show that were cast, and we'll get into some of this casting in a minute. But Galadriel is the one on the left. She's the blonde elf queen.
Yep.
She was played by Kate Blanchett in the
Oh
Peter
yeah,
Jackson
yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, she's so sexy.
There we
Oh
go.
baby.
She is
we'll-
beyond sex.
Oh,
We'll
my
get into
God,
we'll
that
get into some of
fucking
these
skin.
casting decisions
Ooh.
in a little bit because there's some controversy
Yeah.
from the Tolkien
Yeah.
Well,
fanboys.
So going to the second age, like that that relationship of like you have the Valar and the Maiar were more involved with the elves in the first age. Now it's the elves kind of leading the men in the second age to sort of like ennoble them, like teach them, like, and this is why the Númenóreans are so special at this point.
Okay.
Because they've learned so much from the elves, who learned so much from the Valar, and so the Númenóreans are supposed to be this great people. And actually, like I said earlier, Tolkien kind of used the mythology of Atlantis to sort of inspire
Okay. Sure.
Númenóreans, but he also lead on to what happens toward the end of the Second Age, where they become very corrupt and like just kind of greedy people. He uses
Men, right? You're
yeah,
referring
yeah,
to men.
yeah, the men.
Some tribes of men, because not all men, because they're split into different factions.
Yeah, and that'll
There's men of the north, men of the west.
well, and that's the thing. So the men of the West are the Númenóreans, the Dunedain.
Okay.
That's Aragorn's people.
Right.
So he's a descendant of them.
So the people from Gondor and Rohan are descendants of men of the west.
The people of Gondor, most of the people of Gondor are. The men of Rohan come from. They were never part of Númenóreans.
Okay.
They're like the northern, like.
Well, but the northern men were evil men, and men from the east were evil. I mean, if you want to think of it that way, they kind of when you talk about like the War of the Ring, like when you talk about the battle that's in Return of the King, like it's kind of a split faction, right? Like it's what they refer to as men of the men of the West is the Gondorians and Rohan.
Yeah, and so the problem with that, like, that's the terminology for the Third Age. In the Second Age,
Gotcha. Okay.
the Second Age, the men of the West are Númenóreans. All other people are just people on Middle Earth.
Okay.
And those can be divided up among north, south, east, and west. But the western like the men of the West are Numenorians.
So, and there's 9 tribes of men in the Second Age.
Perhaps.
Well,
That's good. I didn't.
There's
even,
9 kings. I mean, there's 9 rings for the race of men, so there's 9 kings, right?
Not necessarily.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because they also like would have come about like various times.
Okay.
In Tolkien's literature, and only in his like supplemental literature, he names 2 of them, but like we don't really have names of the 9 ring wraiths. We just
Okay.
know that they are men, and they would have originated during the Second Age, which, like I said, could be thousands of years. So they wouldn't have known each other. So yeah, they could be 9 kings, but that doesn't necessarily like they're just a king over there, a king over here. Some of them were also like sorcerers, like they were dabbling in whatever
Okay,
they could,
okay.
So, they're not necessarily connected. They weren't a part of the same time period, other than the Second Age. They could be like hundreds of years displaced.
Okay. So, like the main theme of this show that's being called the Rings of Power is obviously the Rings of Power, right? So, we're talking 3 Elvish rings, 7 Dwarven rings, and 9 rings for men, and then the Ring of Power that Sauron creates in secret.
Yes.
So, like, I guess I never like looked at the timeline of it, but this happens. He gives the rings out over not all at the same time. It wasn't like something that happened over the course of like 10 years. It was like he started dropping rings like every couple of years whenever he got the chance.
Well, and there is some like a discussion among like Tolkien communities, like how many of these rings, because it was only mentioned, I think, I can't remember where, but it's mentioned that like lesser rings were made. Kind of maybe as like practice rings or something, like who knows? Who knows
Okay.
how many they were? Who knows how powerful they were? But the thing was, and like kind of going back to like the gods and everything, in the elves, like, so one of the elves is Celebrimbor, who I think will be a really prominent role in this series because he teaches people how to make rings.
Oh, okay.
so he creates the rings. He creates the 3 elven rings, and at the time there is a human king, Ar-Pharazôn, but maybe the show will bring him in. I don't know, but anyway, so there is a human king who captures Sauron. There's a whole war and everything. He captures him, and he says, like, I defeated this guy.
And Sauron's not as powerful and as badass as he is in the Lord of the Rings series at this point, right? Like, he's kind of...
Maybe, potentially you could say that he's actually more powerful in
Okay.
the Second Age. Yeah,
Okay.
so because this is a big element, is that he can appear fair, is how he's described. He can appear like he's a good guy.
Ooh,
And so when he gets captured,
that's a good
and-
strategy.
which is,
putting up front.
yeah, and so one of
illusion,
one of the things is like, did he actually get captured, or did he let himself get captured?
yeah.
So he gets, he's in Mordor, he gets captured, quote unquote,
yeah.
and then he's brought back to Numenor, and so he starts creating this cult of Melkor. And we were talking about the Valar and everything. Melkor was the most evil. And so he creates this cult, and now there's like human sacrifices. There's like all this evil shit going on.
So hold on, wait. So, Sauron, I thought he was just dark matter, or not? What is he like? I didn't like a physical form.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
like, okay, in the Second Age, he's because in his Third
Yeah.
Age, yeah, he's
just the eye. He can't take physical form.
Right. Okay. So he's gonna be
Yeah.
actual physical form in this one. Oh,
Yeah, because
okay.
at the end of the Second Age in the War of the Ring, and the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring starts off explaining this. There's the War of the Ring. Sauron is spreading evil across the land, and that's when Isildur, the son of the king, cuts the ring from Sauron's hand.
Yeah.
He separates Sauron from the Ring
Oh,
of Power.
okay, that's-
and that
that's him,
like kind of
yeah.
disembodies Sauron because his life force is tied to the ring. So when they're
Okay.
separated, he basically loses his power, a la Voldemort from Harry Potter, kind of things.
Well, similar, but like to add to a creepy element of all this, like there is a moment in the books where Gollum describes his torture, and like the reason that Sauron knows the name Bilbo and Shire is because Gollum was being tortured, and Gollum does say the Black Hand. It's like, so Sauron does have enough physical form in the Third Age to physically torture somebody.
Oh.
And so that's pretty creepy. But yeah, no, he does lose his ability to really like appear in a physical.
God, that's so fucked up,
Yeah.
man.
And it's because of what the events in the Second Age. Because at the end of the Second Age, the entire island of Numenor, much like the story of Atlantis, sinks into the sea. And at that time, Sauron loses his ability to ever appear like a good guy ever again. So
is
he
that
has
that
lost.
his fault that it happened? Like he
Pretty
caused
much.
that? Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. So he creates this cult of Melkor. Everybody starts like killing, doing human sacrifices, and he's convinced the king. He's like, "Hey, these elves live forever. Why can't you? Why can't people? Why can't be?" And so
Got it.
so humans think that they can have this ability that is not granted to them by the greater god, by Iluvatar. Like they're not the gift of death is humans' gift. Elves can't die, and they actually are sad about that. They're like, we have to remember all the horrible things that have happened for thousands of years.
Yeah.
We have to remember that shit. Holy crap, we want to just die and forget it. But no, like
Terrible. You're right.
Yeah.
yeah. But no, humans they get that sweet release. But they also are jealous and envious of the elves who can live forever, seemingly. So
I mean, they can die, obviously. You
Yeah,
can
yeah,
kill
they-
them,
yeah,
but
yeah.
they don't age. I mean, they age to a certain extent, and then they kind of stop
yeah.
or
Well,
slow down because, I mean, there are elves that look older than younger elves,
Yeah.
but like
Weird.
they slow down aging.
right. Yeah, yeah.
significantly.
Can they
they're-
hide that too?
Can
Or
you hide it?
no. Can they hide their age?
what with
Oh,
like
no,
a
no.
like some like
No, I
balm or
was thinking. Well,
something?
no, because in the Hobbit, who's that fucking? I don't even know his name. The let's just say the King Elf. Or was it?
Elrond.
Or yeah, maybe it was that or Lord. I don't know. Like it shows him like he's really like disfigured, but he's hiding it. But like you know what I'm talking about? Like it reveals like what he really looks
Oh,
like.
that's
something-
yeah.
that's Lee Pace's character.
Yeah, that's Thranduil.
Thranduil,
So-
yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. They have like they can. That's what he really looks. I was confused in that scene. Like, is that what he really looks like, and he's hiding it, concealing it?
That's a good question. But that is entirely Peter Jackson. There's
okay,
nothing
so,
about that.
Okay, so that
elves-
was him doing. Okay, that's just him just saying,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna fuck with this."
I mean, yeah, and that's
Oh, man.
that's totally cool. If like people want, like that's obviously like part of Peter Jackson's headcanon. So if other people
Yeah.
want to see elves as like something that they can like, they can reveal their truth, like their actual
Yeah,
age, and then they hide
right.
it. Yeah, you can.
Okay,
You can, but
interesting.
in the way the story is constructed by Tolkien, it's no. They appear
Yeah.
fair and grow.
Yeah.
They age very
Nice.
slowly. Yeah.
Okay, so we have Sauron has the cult of Melkor going on. He's convinced the king like now, so the men are kind of pushing back against the elves, and so we're creating some animosity there. Where do the dwarves play into this, and where did their origins come from?
Ooh, and that's a really cool one because they were created like the great creator Iluvatar created the elves and men, and he called them the firstborn. Like the elves are the firstborn, men are the secondborn. There was another guy who created dwarves. He was one of the Valar, and he was just like, hey, I know that these beings, these elves and men, are going to be created. I really want to create something too, and he just loved that idea. So he created dwarves, with a misunderstanding of what the situation was. And Eru was like, you can't do that. But he said, let's just wait. Anyway, there's a whole story about that in the Silmarillion. I won't go into that. The point is, dwarves did originate totally differently than the elves and men,
Okay,
which kind of explains why there might be some animosity or like a challenge for them to
be accepted
Yeah,
and kind of
to-
things.
yeah. But in this case, Celebrimbor, who's the guy who's like teaching how to make rings and everything,
Right.
he becomes great friends with this dwarf called Narvi. And they're the two of them together make and this you might recognize from the Lord of the Rings, the gate
Oh
Moria.
the West
Yeah,
Gate.
yeah. The more, yeah. It's like speak friend and enter. That's because Narvi and Celebrimbor were friends.
Right.
So Narvi would be one of the great dwarves that this show could possibly introduce.
Well, you don't think they'll introduce Durin? Because I mean, Durin was, then he founded, what wasn't called Moria at the time, because
Right.
Moria means black pit.
Yeah.
It was called that after the orc invasion and when the Balrog was discovered. But when they unearthed the Balrog.
Khazad-dûm.
Yeah.
is the,
Khazad-dûm.
yeah.
So you don't think that they'll introduce like when they start building out? Well, I mean, there's a lot of lore between the different factions of dwarves and the Iron Hills and the Blue Mountain, because I mean, and all of that happens.
I just didn't realize how much there is.
There's so much, man. It's just
based
all
on what you
fleshed
guys are
out.
saying. Like that's a fucking lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and
a
I'm
lot of
trying
source material.
Yeah, I'm trying to condense, and it's hard to. But the thing with like Durin, like there's probably going to be a Durin because everybody's at some point named Durin. But the
There's
original
7 Durins.
Son of Thrain.
Yeah,
Son of
the original
fucking-
Durin was probably born in the first age, so he's not gonna like the first original Durin is probably not gonna be, because like the families of the dwarves have already been established by the second age.
Okay.
They're already doing their thing.
But they're already on Middle Earth.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Okay. So how do they get to Middle Earth from Numenor?
They were not on Numenor.
Okay, so when do the elves and the men come from Numenor to Middle Earth?
Okay, so Numenor
Or the dwarves and the orcs alone on Middle Earth?
No, because Numenor was sectioned out specifically for these people. At the end of the first age, after the war and everything like that, there were certain men who were granted, this gift of like special longevity, and they were given this land of gift. They were given, Numenor to live on, and they created this great empire. There were already men, elves, and dwarves, and orcs, and a bunch of other things living in Middle Earth.
Got it.
It's just that Numenor, I guess, is still part of Middle Earth, but it's its own island. And so that was only for special men.
Special men, you say? Special
Yes.
men, yeah.
Back your hand up a little bit. Nobody can. The camera can't focus that close, dummy.
But
Paul's hand says, "Help me."
yeah,
What's it said?
Rob is
It's-
gay.
You just smeared it all over your hand, dumbass.
With the
Hey,
question mark.
I think you got something right on it. You just.
Just leave it.
But no, so there are men, dwarves, elves, and evil creatures like orcs and other things already living on Middle Earth.
Okay.
It's just that the Numenorians are the special kinds who
All
get to live on Numenor.
So we've got to flesh out all of this stuff that happens in the Second Age, like all the way from this building of Sauron's army, like him settling into Mordor, and does he create orcs and goblins, or?
that all happened in the first age.
Okay, so all that's already
Nasty
established.
fuckers.
We're not
Yeah,
seeing the origins of any of that kind of stuff.
Nasty fuckers.
Yeah, yeah. And the only new kinds come around in the third age, when
the
Saruman
Uruk-hai,
and yeah.
crossbreed the goblins and
Yeah.
the orcs together. All right, so what are some of the other significant events that we're planning on going to be seeing in the Second Age?
Now, hold on a minute. Before you answer that,
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you basing this off the trailer or what you know from like articles or what's revealed like publicly?
No, that's a good thing, because
Like what are you basing this off of? Like I know you asked him that. I'm just curious. Like,
Oh, okay,
where you're sourcing from that? I'm just curious.
No, and that works. That'll kind of like answer both your questions, because the series is like there's an article out. So first of all, my knowledge. I've read a lot and I've listened to a lot and I know a lot already. So I'm not
Mr.
basing this.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I'm not basing this on the trailer, but the trailer and the subsequent like articles and everything that came out from it have pointed out that these thousands of years and these major events that happen throughout the Second Age are going to be condensed, because this is a visual medium. It is a TV series that people want to watch in however many seasons, like
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
or 4 or whatever.
Yeah,
And
people
so
have fucking patience.
right,
and-
yeah, they're
oh,
not they're
God.
not going to try to tell a story that lasts thousands of
Yeah,
years.
just
They're
let David
But
Lynch
they
do
should.
it.
Yeah.
He would do it fucking great. He
They
can
should,
drag
but
the
they-
fuck out of all of that.
Well, you don't need to drag it out. There's enough. You
Well,
could
yeah,
probably
that's
write
true.
this
Yeah, I mean,
story
yeah.
and drag it and have 5 or 6 seasons
well,
of this.
And this is kind of like going back to what we were talking about with the
I just
Fellowship of the
He
Ring.
likes to drag scenes out sometimes. anyway, go on.
But yeah, like what we were talking about with the Fellowship, there's a huge period of time that Frodo and was supposed to be staying in the Shire before he went on his adventure.
Right.
And the filmmakers were like, we can't have 13 years of him just dicking around. Like
Yeah.
we gotta expedite some things. And so this Amazon series is gonna do the same kind of, like, it's for a visual medium. It's gonna be like
Right.
we're gonna condense things because we don't want, and arguably, if you've seen like the Vikings show, they condensed about like 300 years of Viking history into a couple of seasons. So that, like, it's not unheard of. Like
So
Yeah.
I mean, like, how
I
does
guess the juicy parts, basically.
you've been on a couple of different podcasts, and you've got buddies that do Tolkien podcasts and stuff like that. Which are, why don't you go ahead and name drop your Tolkien podcast buddies or whatever? that
Yeah,
you've been
so here in Houston, there are these two guys called Chad, both Chads, Chad Bornholt and Chad
Chads,
High.
you say? All right.
Yeah, Chad High and Chad Bornholt. They do a Texas Tolkien podcast talk. Sorry, Texas Tolkien Talk podcast. They like to
Nice.
use the alliteration there.
There you go.
And it's very much like this, they just want to like hang out with anybody who has any kind of question, any topic that they want to discuss about Lord of the Rings. They can just message them, Texas Tolkien Talk podcast, and they'll like bring them. The Chads will bring them onto the show, and they can talk about anything, either like really in depth, like what we're kind of doing, or
Yeah.
something just really generic.
Yeah. Are they
you know.
open to just talking shit about it?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's what
This is
this
This
podcast
is not
about.
this is not a shit posting podcast.
Yeah,
They
but
still do
you
love
say
the
that,
story,
but it's an
and-
acknowledgement. You just haven't acknowledged it. That's what we are. I mean, I'm sorry.
No,
we,
that's what
are.
you do.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
They-
I'm
This
sorry.
is not a forum. This is
Yeah.
not Reddit. Like, you come on here to fucking shit post is what you're doing.
I
on
don't
this.
shit post. I just like to fucking point things out and laugh at them.
That's
shit.
shit posting.
Call it what you want, but I don't.
The Chads will like to poke fun sometimes, but no, they
Yeah.
still love the material. and they're not
my
gonna-
thing is I shit on it because I love it. You know,
Oh,
that's what I
okay,
do.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's not because I hate it. Like I love it, but just at the same time, I just want to shit on it, just like everything I do. Whatever.
Yeah, makes total fucking sense.
Yeah.
All right.
But
So anyway,
paradoxal. Fuck you.
There's
What do
a
you
there's
want
a
from
couple
me?
other ones that that you've hung out with, guys, right, that do other Tolkien podcasts.
Yeah, these guys are their podcast is called the Prancing Pony Podcast,
Ooh,
and they're like
delightful name.
yeah
Say it again.
Prancing Pony Podcast.
Prancing Pony podcast.
Again with
Prancing
the
Pony podcast,
alliteration.
Prancing
Again, yeah. Because
Fuckers, man. Are they an
Tolkien-
alliance? Is there some kind of alliance with Tolkien fucking podcast? Your name has to have a, you're saying a fucking. Oh, go on.
well,
I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, Tolkien liked his alliteration too, so that's why these guys do
okay.
that.
That son of a bitch.
But so for the for the Prancing Pony podcast, like these guys, they just take the story, like the Silmarillion, and then the Hobbit, and then right now they're reading like chapter by chapter, and they're discussing portions of the chapter. It's kind of like an audiobook, but it can't be because legal issues.
Gotcha.
So they read like portions, and then they discuss and they talk about like, hey, what was this like? And they draw from other parts of the Legendarium, and they draw from like other published material that was just supplemental, stuff that most people don't read, like Histories of Middle Earth, which is a huge like collection of stuff that Christopher Tolkien published. That's only really beneficial if you just if you want to know this behind the scenes kind of stuff, like these historical things. And that's why so this Amazon series is based on what is available in the appendices of the Return of the King. So it's not actually based on anything in the Silmarillion or in the Histories of Middle Earth. However, there's a lot of crossover, so it is, de
Gotcha.
facto, like there's going to be
And,
some stuff in the appendices that.
So the from my understanding, the Tolkien estate has told them that like they're fair. Anything in the Second Age is fair game, but they can't contradict anything that's already out, and they can't change storylines and change characters. To a certain extent, they can't like add. But just like what Peter Jackson did with The Hobbit, like you can things that were inferred but maybe not fleshed out, or things that could have possibly happened, they can still kind of go into, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it in the book The Hobbit, Legolas is never in the fucking book,
Right.
But they are in that city at that time, and it's like that was Legolas's father, so it makes sense that Legolas possibly could have been there, so they stuck him in there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it doesn't contradict anything. So that's so they can kind of do that same thing.
So he's gonna be in, or his character is gonna be in Amazon show, or
no, I was just using that as an
Yeah.
example.
Okay.
That is a good because there is a Legolas that I know of in the first age, but I don't know if it's the same one.
Oh.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, those
So,
fuckers
I mean,
live
he's
a long
thousands of
time.
years
Yeah.
old.
I mean,
I wouldn't
Legolas
doubt it.
could have been around in the Second Age. I'm not, and I'm sure if my Tolkien friends are listening, they'll be like, "Duh, don't you know this?" But I can't remember. I don't remember
kid.
when Legolas was born.
He's 1,200 years old. Oh, he's barely a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he is.
Fucking kid. God damn.
He's at least 2500 years. Well, Elrond's at least 2,500 years
Oh,
old.
Elrond's super old.
Hubby?
Not L. Ron Hubbard.
You know what I'm talking about, Sam?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Elrond.
supposedly they. No, wait, never mind. I thought him and Tolkien knew each other. No, that's somebody else.
Yeah.
Go on.
But
Because he was a Pulp Fiction artist.
Christopher
Oh,
Lee
Pulp-
knew Tolkien.
Not Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
Pulp-
Christopher Lee did meet Tolkien.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Christopher
Oh,
Lee.
okay.
Yeah, the guy who played
Oh, really?
Saruman.
Yeah.
He knew Tolkien.
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
the only member of the cast that actually had
Wow,
met him.
because he's so
Yeah, he's
old.
old as
Well,
fuck.
he's old.
He
but,
fucking,
yeah.
what a
He's-
badass.
He's
though,
fucking
man.
metal as fuck.
I know,
Yeah.
I was supposed to say those albums.
Yeah.
That's so cool. But
He played
him.
fucking Drac. We're not getting into that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He,
So,
he's amazing.
Rest
Uh,
in peace.
yeah,
Amazing
R.I.P.
human being, man.
So the Second Age ends with the War of the Ring, but what's the build up to that war? Like, how do they figure? At what point do they figure out that like that Sauron was fucking him with these rings?
Yeah. Okay. So like I was saying, so Celebrimbor is definitely going to be a major factor in this series.
And
because
is that you think that's this guy? Let me pull it up.
No.
You think that's this guy on the right, or is that Elrond?
that's Elrond?
Okay.
That's yeah. Like I've read already that so
That
on the
forehead,
left.
though, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like somebody. I just can't think of it. Like another famous actor. And I don't know, kind of like a Neil Patrick Harris vibe in a way.
Yeah, I get that. I get that from
the
him.
eyes, he's definitely Doogie Howser right there.
Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I get that.
Slap a fucking lab
Well,
coat on
well,
him. And, that's Doogie.
and Elrond is supposed to be
Or
Elrond
doctor's
is supposed to
jacket,
have the
whatever the
hands of
fuck
a
it is.
healer, and Neil Patrick Harris did play a doctor on TV.
Oh, there you go. See, you're making the connections. I like that.
All
There you
right,
go, that
but
makes
that's definitely
sense.
not Neil Patrick Harris, by the way.
Bullshit.
All right, so what's again back to the question? So Celebrimbor.
Damn.
Celebrimbor.
Are you a little drunk there, baby?
No, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, okay.
yeah. I mean, it's a tongue twister. Even like so.
Celebrimbor.
So-
Celebrimbor.
I'm starting to
Celebrimbor.
notice a pattern with fucking he just has these fucking tongue twisters.
He was a
man.
linguist.
Yeah.
The fucking linguist.
He wrote and created the multiple languages in the Lord of the Rings lore.
Damn, man.
The Elfish language is actually he fleshed it completely out. The Mordor, all that stuff. It's all like he's a linguist. That's what he did.
Man,
and
talk
he's a
about
very
man.
cunning linguist.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We talk about a man who's really depth. His imagination, like how deep he is. In
Tim would
creativity,
punch
man.
me. Tim would punch me in the face had I not made that cunning linguist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck.
And so just
I
as
knew
a,
it was coming. Though.
yeah, just as a side note, like kudos, that was a great joke. But also, so
No, it wasn't.
the actress who plays Galadriel, she is a Welsh actress. Welsh Yeah. Anyway, she's a Welsh actor. She can speak Welsh fluently.
Welshman.
Okay, I didn't know that was a
with-
separate language. Thanks.
Yeah.
There's like fucking thousands of them within like a 10-mile radius. But go on. In England, I've
Yeah,
heard.
right.
Yeah, seriously.
There's more than that.
There's a shitload.
There's a
like
whole
different-
country called
Languages of
Wales.
people.
Like even just and just within that
He's talking about
small-
languages.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Not
languages.
Welsh
I'm
people.
sorry, not languages. I meant accents. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah,
accents,
yeah.
accents.
Welsh
yeah.
is not an accent; it's an actual
well, okay,
language.
well I know, but like just lay off, all right?
Okay.
Fuck you.
Well,
All
and,
right.
and I only bring that up
Please
because Tolkien used Welsh as as an inspiration for
Okay.
for one of his Elvish languages. So the fact that they have a native Welsh speaker speaking Elvish is almost like, she would probably be the best example. Like if she can nail the Elvish language, which Kate Blanchett did in Lord of the Rings, Hugo Weaving did with the pretty language, not the orc language.